Okay, class, I'm going to discuss Chapter 10 Adverse Childhood Experiences that will include maltreatment. I'm sorry. First of all, let's think about the family in which your grandparents or parents grew up. And just think about how your parents grew up or your grandparents grew up to family life today. Is it different? Sure, yes, it's totally different. Even with me growing up compared to my own children, everything is so different. So, we're going to discuss discipline and punishment, how they differ. We're going to define and provide an example for abuse, which is physical, emotional, verbal, sexual, and neglect. And then we're going to describe factors that may perpetuate abusive or neglectful acts. We're going to discuss the protective steps that programs can take to avoid allegations of abuse. We'll identify individuals who are mandated by law to report suspected abuse and neglect. And we will discuss the concept of trauma-informed support and describe the teacher's role. Here are some maltreatment facts. 5 children die every day from child maltreatment. 70% are children under 3 years of age. 46% of this number are infants under 1. Approximately 680,000 confirmed cases of child maltreatment and 1,750 deaths occurred in the U.S. The actual incidence of maltreatment is estimated to be 3 times greater than reported, and more than 407,000 children are currently in foster care due to maltreatment. And I can attest to that because I used to be a DHS family service worker, and the cases is 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 outrageous. How many children we have in foster care and the calls we get. And I understand there are times when you may get a phone call and it may end up being really nothing, which I don't want to say nothing, because anytime a person feel like that there is a reason or a cause to make that phone call, I don't want to say that it's nothing. It must be something that you saw or felt to say, well, I think I need to make that call. Also, let me just iterate that teachers, educators, we are always mandated reporters wherever we go. We don't have to be at work to be a mandated reporter. If you are an educator and you see something at the grocery store between a child and an adult, you are mandated to report it, especially if you feel that it needs to be reported. That is one thing that I will tell my staff. If they, when we do health checks every day, if they feel like that there is something that, oh, we need to address this, or I will always tell them, I cannot tell you not to report, but discuss it with me first. Make sure you have documentation to cover everything. And if you are 100% sure and you just feel like I need to make this call, I will support my staff when they make that call. So just always remember, you are a mandated reporter wherever you go. You don't have to be at work to report if you see maltreatment with children. So what happens to children who are victimized? Victimized children are more likely to engage in drug abuse, juvenile crime, become pregnant, express depression, and other mental health disorders. Suicide, attempted suicide, and self-injury rates are high among children, adolescents who experience maltreatment or family violence. Victims are at greater risk for performing poorly in school, repeating at least one grade, and requiring special education services. I can attest to this again because I was that person that I would have to go and sit with the families while they help monitor visits. That's what it was called with DHS. I was that one that had to go to court and stand up for the child against the parent if the parent was not doing what they were supposed to do to try to get their child back. So victimized children I have seen on visits with teenagers that they do not respect their parents at all, and it's all because they're looking for love. I have had cases where I would get phone calls 2 and 3 times out the week or every day for one family, for one child, really, not the family, the child, because she was pulled away from her family and she stayed in trouble every day, every day. She would do so good. I had to pick her up. I would have a 2-hour drive, had to go pick her up and then take her to a facility. And then the facility she was there, they kicked her out. They didn't want her. And it is so hard to find a home for teenagers. Really, no one wants to fool with the adolescents or the pre-Ks. Everybody really want to fool. They really want to take care and the little infants. So it's very hard for those teenagers and those mid-teens because they already feel neglected from their families. So now, when they're from home to home and everybody keeps pushing them out, they run to drug abuse and they're going to do whatever they can to get in trouble because they want to gain that attention from someone to get their so they can get that attention that they're seeking because no one else is giving them that attention from their family. I have best friends who foster children in their home. I have had employees who foster children in their home. I started to foster, but at the time I can't because I'm so busy. But I do have a passion for children that have been victimized. That's just I have a heart for that. Not saying it's going to be easy. It's not easy because I had a friend, the child that was in her home. Oh, wow. He has been kicked out so many times, so many times. She finally had to send him back. She had him about for 3 years. And I think she was the only person that had him the longest. Most people, when he come into their home, within a month or two, they send him back. And he was, it was difficult because he would put poop sometimes on the wall. And I'm not talking about a 1 and 2 or 3-year-old. I'm talking about a 15, 16-year-old. So she finally had to send him back. She just couldn't take it anymore. So my heart breaks for them because it's not their fault sometimes. And a lot of times they do fall through the cracks. They do. Adverse childhood experiences refer to any traumatic event that a child experiences or witnesses. ACEs assume many forms, including maltreatment, violence, family dysfunction, and parental substance abuse. ACE can have a long-term negative effect, like the child that I was just talking about that my friend had took into her home. That includes developmental chronic diseases, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, mental health disorders, school dropout, teen pregnancy, crime, poor job productivity, involvement in sex trafficking. The more ACEs a child experiences, the more likely they are to develop serious health and social emotional consequences. Maltreatment is defined as any situation in which a child is not safe in their environment because of injury inflicted by caretakers, exposure to hazardous conditions resulting from inadequate protection, porn, sex trafficking, withholding a medical treatment. The challenge. Maltreatment presents moral and ethical dilemmas. A family's rights to discipline or care for a child in their own way versus the law. Maltreatment is often a continuing discipline maltreatment. According to the graph, we have neglect is 74%, which neglect can include everything physical, sexual abuse. Discuss the following question or think about this question while you're going through the lesson. Is child maltreatment a contemporary problem? I would like to know your thoughts. Um, I would probably have this as a discussion activity question, just to hear everybody's responses, to hear your thoughts, especially when you're working in childcare. And I know each of you have already probably seen or have worked with children, troubled children that have been through traumatic events, or you might have foster children in your care. So I think I went me sorry. I think I will make that as a discussion question. I just want to see your thoughts and how do you feel about child maltreatment? Do you think it's temporary, or can they actually get over it? Because I have learned with trauma, everybody has had some type of trauma. It can be something minor. You can be traumatized from weather if you've been in a bad storm. So everybody has had some type of trauma in their life. And believe it or not, it does affect you. Even as an adult, it affects you. Maltreatment categories: abuse, physical, abusive head trauma, the shaken baby syndrome, sexual, emotional or verbal, neglect, physical and emotional. So, physical abuse, unexplained physical injuries. The child may appear frightened, aggressive, withdrawn, or apprehensive. Sexual abuse is what it is. It's just what it says: porn, sex trafficking, or just inappropriate touching, indecent exposure. Emotional and verbal abuse, repeated name calling, belittling, or other negative remarks. Physical neglect, failure to meet child's basic needs and protection from harm. And the child may come in about absent caregiver. Emotional neglect, lack of interest or responsiveness to a child's psychological needs and development. Adult predisposition to equals vulnerable child, then stress, and then you have maltreatment. Most cases involve someone the child knows and trusts. Believe me when I tell you, from working at DHS, the majority of the time is someone close to them. The majority of the time. 4 out of 5 victims are maltreated by at least one parent or caregiver. Perpetrators may also be other family members, like that uncle or that aunt, the babysitter, the neighbor, the preacher, the coach, the club leader, because that child is looking for attention. So whoever gives them that attention seeker that they need, that perpetrator. Because they trust them, they believe in them, because they're showing them that attention that they want. and that they need. They experience frequent, acute, or chronic environmental stress, poverty, dysfunctional relationships, unemployment, mental health disorders. They tend to be impulsive, impatient, and have poor anger control. They lack trust and have ineffective problem solving and communication skills. They tend to live in social isolation and have limited outside support. They often lack an understanding of children's typical development and possess few effective parenting skills. And many abuse alcohol, drugs, or other substances. One thing I can say most of the time that an adult perpetrator, something probably or has happened to them in their life. So it's just like a cycle, like a life cycle. It happened to them. So they're going to do it to someone else because that's the norm for them. That's what they know is normal for them. It's typical for them. And not always saying that they want to do it. Sometimes they might not even want to do it anymore because of how they felt when someone did it to them. But if you don't get the help and seek help that you need, sometimes you just repeat that cycle over and over, not even realizing what you're doing. Vulnerable children. No group of children is immune to abuse or neglect. Boys and girls experience maltreatment in almost equal numbers. Girls are 4 times or more likely to be sexually abused. Children younger than 3 are the most vulnerable. So why do you think this? And children who have disabilities are at higher risk. You would think children with disabilities, because they are already at a vulnerable state. So why would a person make them feel even worse or add more damage or to influence their life? The period of purple crying. I know you all have probably heard of the period of purple crying. So I will keep that as a discussion question as well. Self-check activity. Well, maybe I won't. I'll just take that one back because here's the answer. The period of purple crying. The period of purple crying refers to a period of intense and excessive crying that typically occurs around 6 to 8 weeks and ends between 3 and 5 months. During this stage, it may be very difficult to soothe a confident infant who is crying. And I will say that because I don't know if with my children never really had, if they cried when they were infants or toddlers, it was because something was hurting them or they were sick. I can say I'm grateful. I didn't have children with the colic. I didn't have children just screaming out of control for no reason at all. I didn't have that. So I didn't experience that. But I have experienced children in a classroom that would just scream all day, infants. And you're trying your best to console them. You're trying to comfort them. And the more you try to comfort, it doesn't help. Whatever you do, it doesn't help. So it can be stressful. A lot of times, if during that time, if you have someone in that classroom with you, walk out that classroom. Ask them, or you can have somebody to relieve you. Let somebody relieve you, give you a break. Because people can say all day long, oh, you can handle it. No, sometimes everyone has a breaking point. So it's best to step out the room, take a breather, to release some stress, and then or let somebody else give you a break. Especially if you have a team, a partner in there, an associate or a para. Let them help you. Don't just let the para deal with the crying child. You really that para as well. Y'all work as a team, so you both won't be stressed out at the end of the day, or may do something you wouldn't normally do because you're so stressed out, and then you don't have a job, and then you have a maltreatment. You have someone to call maltreatment on you for this child, and then that's on your record for a very long time, and then you will never work in early childhood again, or around children, or have issues with being around children, even with your own family. So you don't want to. That's a lot. So make sure that if you have a child in your room, get those breaks as needed, or just say, okay, or tell the director, I need a break. I need to just give me a few minutes to step away, and I'll come back. There's nothing wrong with that. I do it all the time. Let me rephrase that. I do it all the time for my staff. If they feel like we have a child in the classroom with behaviors and out of control, and especially if I can hear it, I will go in there to relieve them or help in the classroom, because I don't want that teacher to get stressed out. I care about my staff and how their day is going. How to determine if a child is being maltreated. A combination of physical indicators. You have on teacher checklist 10-1. One thing you will notice, you will notice behavior changes. You will start noticing different things with that child, because you with that child more than the family is with their child. You'll notice depression, fearfulness, withdrawal, aggression. Child abuse laws require certain individuals to report suspected incidents of maltreatment, like I had mentioned earlier: educators, early childhood personnel, medical professionals, social workers, law enforcement. Any person with reason to suspect a child has been injured due to physical, emotional, or sexual abuse or neglect. Checklist 10-4. What to include in a written child abuse neglect report. The child's and parents or caregiver's names and address, the child's age, the nature and extent of the child's injuries, or describe the neglect, the evidence, previous injuries, the identity of the offending adult, if known. Any additional information the reporting person believes may be helpful in establishing the cause of injuries or neglect. The name, address, telephone number, and professional title of the individual making the report. And always, when you make a call, a child maltreatment report, it is best. I know there are some centers that says you need to talk to the family. Tell the family you have made the report. Honestly, I probably would, but I would not tell the family until after I have made the report. I not do that for safety reasons, because you never know. It used to be when you make child maltreatment reports, they used to do anonymous calls. Now they're not anonymous calls anymore. You have to give your name when you make the report. Teachers can be instrumental in identifying and supporting children who experience emotional or physical trauma. Early identification and reporting of suspected incidents is essential. Always create a safe, trauma supportive environment. Valuing and accepting a child without judgment, gaining the child's trust, and building on their strengths to promote self-confidence. Providing stability, consistent expectations. Fostering a child's resilience, communication, problem solving, conflict resolution, and self-protection skills. Also, reaching out to families. What is a safe haven? A shelter for victims of domestic violence, a school for children who have been abused or neglected, free inner city child care programs, or designated sites where parents can give up their child. Designated sites where parents can give up their child. Which is an example of emotional abuse. Scolding a child for forgetting to pick up their toys, criticizing a child repeatedly for being worthless, telling a child that you are disappointed in their behavior, removing a privilege because the child was late. Criticizing a child repeatedly for being worthless. You just constantly just beating them down, beating them down, beating them down with words. A child in your classroom who is thin, ravenous at snack time, and has severe as several, decayed teeth may be experiencing physical neglect, diabetes, emotional neglect, or physical abuse. Physical neglect. And this wraps up chapter 10. So now we will move to chapter 11. Planning for children's health and safety education. Think about something new that you would like to learn. And would it be under cooking, sport, language, music, hobby, craft, technology, politics, job opportunities? Our objectives for Chapter 11 describe the benefits of including families in children's learning experiences. Discuss the importance of teachers' participation in professional development training as it relates to children's health, safety, education. Identify and describe the four basic elements of the instructional design. Develop health and safety activity plans based on the format outlined in this chapter. Why is it important that teachers continue to participate in ongoing professional development training? Where can this type of training be obtained? What topics would you be interested in learning more about? Before I move forward, let me say one thing. When I first started in early childhood, it was never a day we would have training on top of trainings on top of trainings. And we were eager to go to the trainings, whether it was an hour drive or a 30-minute drive, or if it was 5 to 8 o'clock at night. We wanted to learn. We was eager to learn. We wanted to be updated on everything all the time. But since COVID and we have Zoom, now no one wants to do professional development trainings. They don't want to travel to do a training. They want everything right at their feet, right in their face. They want a Zoom all the time. If it's not a Zoom, they don't even want to do the trainings. But I just didn't want to encourage everyone to get that eagerness. I know sometimes we can get stagnated. Oh, well, we know our job. It's always something we can learn. It's something new every day. Times are changing every day. Things are changing every day. Every day. So make sure you get the training. Don't just get the minimum 15 hours out the year. Be 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 more of observant. I want to learn more. Yeah, I know this, but what about this? What can I learn more? What can for new every day? Family involvement. Family involvement in children's health and safety education is fundamental to improving children's well-being. Why is family engagement important? What positive outcomes does it achieve? What are some ways that teachers can involve families in children's health and safety learning experiences? Principles of instructional design. We're going to go ahead. We're going to pass that one. And since we can't do small group activities, we're going to go ahead and pass that. Principles of instructional design. Develop learning objectives that guide content selections and organization. Identify expected learning outcomes. Aid in determining how a topic or theme should be present and can be used to evaluate lessons' effectiveness. Behavior objectives. Examples of behavior objectives that are observable and measurable include draw, discuss, select, describe, arrange, answer, show, compare, name, label, count, point to, create, demonstrate, and explain. Consider and select content and presentation methods that appeal and hold the child's interest and attention. If you lose their interest and attention, don't continue the lesson. Don't I say this so much, circle time. Don't make them sit there. If you don't lost their attention and they all bouncing off the wall and they're screaming and they're hitting, they're touching, now they're fussing, stop. do something to get them to move around, get their attention. And then maybe go back to it if you can. And if you can't, it's okay. Follow the lead of a child. We don't always have to lead and be in control as the teacher. That's one thing I have learned. And as educators, we feel like we need to be in control all the time. To a certain degree, we don't have to be in control all the time. Let them be in control sometimes. As long as they're doing it the right way, let them be in control. Let them be leaders. Show them how to be leaders. That's showing them leadership skills. Focus on only one or two basic concepts at a time. You don't want to overdo it. Don't give them too much. Even with us as adults, don't give me too much, because I'd be like, okay, that's too much. You got to come back around and break that down for me, because I'm not understanding. Make sure it's appropriate in length time based on their attention spans. Are infused with visual media. Give them visual supports. Don't just actually just talk. Give them visuals. Include children's hands-on participation and practice. Hands-on is the best. Visuals and hands-on experiences. How to evaluate the printed resource material. Make sure, look for materials that are prepared in the field or by a professional source. No bias information. Avoid promotions, advertisements. Present content that is current. Involve the learner. A thought-provoking or raise questions that will make them raise questions that you can answer or they can answer themselves. Let it be attractive. Enhance the quality of the learning experiences. Is this worth time and any costs involved? And support your program's philosophy. What instructional methods would be most appealing and effective to use with infants, toddlers, preschool, and school age? Make sure that it's appropriate, age appropriate. Assessment. Assessment should be performed throughout the lesson, not only at the conclusion. You want to use initial learning objectives to determine if all aspects of the learning activity were effective. Use this information to improve the lesson before it is presented in the next time. This is just a small group activity where you want to do a cooking activity with the children, banana nut bread or banana bread, or you want to make snow. I made snow with soap. You want to make butter. I made butter with, I think it was milk. I can't think exactly what's the ingredients to make the butter. But one time we made butter and they shook it up in a jar. Give them experiences. The term incidental learning refers to family values and beliefs that are handed down, scaffolded lessons planned around a topic, teacher-directed instruction designed to meet children's diverse interests, or is it spontaneous or unintentional learning that occurs during daily activities? Spontaneous or unintentional learning that occurs during daily activities. Sorry. Involving children in learning activities increases understanding and retention, reduces the teacher's instructional responsibilities, makes a learning experience more fun for children, or requires more planning and implementation. It increases understanding and retention. Which of these is an effective and measurable learning objective? To understand, to match, to know, to like. To match. And this is chapter 10. So I'm going back. Sorry, y'all. I have so many things popped up. So that is chapter 10 and 11. I'm sorry, 10 and 11. So I will be adding this to your content. And I hope you all have a great week. Thank you.